If you're even a little familiar with competitive Smash Ultimate, you probably already know that this is a good move. And this. And especially this. These are not what this video is about. Today I thought we'd take a bit of a less worn approach and instead sing the praises of some of the series' better moves that don't receive the same level of attention among the competitive scene. Whether that's because they're new additions, overshadowed by other tools, or particularly because they're attached to less prominent characters. Also, I will say that despite the title, this is less of an attempt to quantify the underratedness of moves and more just the 10 I thought would make a good list, meaning that there is potential for a sequel video in the future, so be sure to champion any moves you'd like to see covered in the comments. Let's do it. Nowadays, we spend a lot of time in front of our screens, whether that's playing Smash, editing Smash, or watching exceptionally high-quality Smash videos from your favorite YouTuber. And that also means a lot of time spent staring at blue light from those screens, which can irritate your eyes and your sleep cycle. The solution? GMG performance classes. Okay, so the way these ads usually work is companies send you a list of talking points that you're supposed to hit. So these are usually about what you'd expect. In this case, I'd be talking about why blue light is bad, how these glasses can help filter them out, how that can help you sleep better and reduce eye strain. You get the idea. Those are true, and when GMG first approached me, that's about what I expected to be filling this ad with. But I wasn't necessarily planning to talk about, for example, how genuinely comfortable these are. I tested them out for a full day before I made this ad, and I frequently forgot that I was actually wearing them. Or how genuinely good both me and my girlfriend think they look on me, particularly this Oranos pair I'm wearing. They did send me this other model too, I'll let you see that one. If you want a pair, GMG Performance is giving a huge 40% discount to anyone who clicks on the first link in the description or pinned comment, but it's only going to be active for 48 hours after this video goes live, so jump on it. We'll start off with a move that hasn't seen much daylight yet, because yes, it is attached to a character who doesn't get too much representation, but more than that, it's a new addition to the game. For those unaware, in the most recent balance patch at time of upload, Bayonetta's jab received a major buff. How did it change? Simple. It now kills. Killing jabs are an extremely rare luxury in the series because their main strength is usually supposed to be their speed, but Bayonetta's jab is not fast. In fact, it's slower than a lot of characters' tilt attacks and even some smash attacks in the game, which makes sense. Most of her normals are quite slow. That was how they originally balanced her in Smash 4, but even in terms of her own kit, jab used to have very little purpose because it came out far slower than her down tilt, which was also a great combo starter. This was a fantastic choice for a buff in my book, as it gives life to a once lifeless move and also stays in line with her general design philosophy in Ultimate. Extended flashy combos for damage, but the final blow usually requiring more conventional methods. Veering off into the world of the Mii's, Ultimate's only customizable characters, Shuriken of Light has the potential to be a pretty annoying little projectile. It's fast, it's spammable, and it has great range, which makes it very good at disruption from across the stage, especially because the damage ramps up as range increases. This does come with the caveat that it doesn't cause flinch when your opponent is really close, which is a weakness I'm not totally convinced it needed, but it's ultimately pretty minor considering it only kicks in where you probably shouldn't be throwing them anyways. I've always really liked this move, being a longtime fan of projectile sword fighters with honest movesets, so when Ultimate first came out, I was genuinely interested in playing Sword Fighter, largely because of Shuriken of Light. And then I discovered the exact same thing that everyone else did. Just run Gale Strike. The space control and combo potential this personal tornado offered made it a staple of Sword Fighter's kit, and it also happened to take up the same special move slot as Shuriken of Light. The obvious conclusion would be that Gale Strike is Shuriken of Light's biggest competition, but I'm actually not sure that's the case. The choice between a slow, comboing projectile and a fast harassment one still could potentially be interesting. That is, if Chakram didn't exist. Sure, they're in different special move slots, so it is possible to run them both if you'd like, but their roles overlap very heavily, with Chakram's increased utility via selectable angles and different speeds, meaning that there aren't actually many situations where you'd rather be pressing the Shuriken button over it. Chakram is also by far the most common side special that Mii Sword Fighter players opt for, so Yeah, just run Gale Strike. In a vacuum, Shuriken of Light is by no means a bad attack, and in a different context, it would likely see quite a bit of use. There's just no real space for it though, especially on an already fairly unpopular character. Out of all the mouth-based command grabs in Smash, which there are enough of for me to say that, I think King Dedede's is probably the one that plays the biggest role in his kit, including Kirby, which could honestly be considered a bit of a shame with how important that move is for getting people into the series. Nevertheless, Dedede's Inhale was already a nice tool to have in previous games, but the fact that it now inhales not only his own Gordo but other projectiles as well is a godsend that makes projectile camping the big guy much more difficult, which has traditionally been one of his major weaknesses. Kirby and Wario both have some projectile interactivity as well, but they're far more limited and generally a lot more risky, whereas the only real limit placed on the King is that he has to spit the projectile back out immediately. Being able to hold it for a bit might be kind of cool. Even explosives don't phase him anywhere near the same as Kirby or Wario. Mighty Penguin, Mighty Gut. No need to despair if you're a Kirby fan, aka have a soul, because I honestly think people sleep on his neutral air quite a bit. While it is slower than some brawler nairs, it also lasts forever, is surprisingly large thanks to its disjointed hitbox, which also allows him to eat through most projectiles, and on top of this has excellent utility. Its sweet spot is a beast of a kill move, far more than you'd expect from its outward appearance, and also works as a decent combo starter early on despite Kirby's low ground speed. The lingering sour spot, meanwhile, combos for a very long time, works great as an edge guarding tool, and is still about as safe on shield as it's possible for a move to be an ultimate. Not the most exciting move in the world, and on a character with so many iconic moves like stone or down air, no one's eye is going to be drawn to it, but nevertheless, it's an incredibly reliable move. Ultimate's Marth is notoriously overshadowed by his clone Lucina because of how unreliable his tipper sweet spots are to land, and Dancing Blade also takes more finesse to connect all the hits at later percents than you might expect. When the stars align though, this move cheats. Consistently connecting the final tipper requires some pretty precise spacing and timing. You can't just mindlessly mash the B button, but the payoff is well worth taking the time to learn, and it is practical to go for in a real match. Because Dancing Blade stalls in the air and ends relatively quickly, it's also great for altering your aerial momentum, whether that's for edge guarding or returning to solid ground. And it also means you can get some neat setups off it, although it would be cool if more of them were actual combos. This is the first Smash game since its debut where Marth hasn't been a prominent character, although Smash 4 had to wait for a lot of balance patches to pull him back from the brink, so maybe there's some hope here. With only one character left to release, and character releases being responsible for most of the game's balance patches, it is kind of a now or never deal though. That's not to say Marth is unusable by any means. Ultimate is an exceptionally balanced game, and he may well have untapped potential. And if you want to be the one to try and unlock that potential, make sure you master Dancing Blade. In a similar boat, Meta Knight is much less popular in Ultimate than he's been in any previous game, and while the bulk of whatever attention he does get does tend to focus rightfully on his extended aerial combos, his down tilt shouldn't be overlooked. At frame 3, it's faster than many of the game's jabs, with a hitbox that's a bit shorter than a lot of similar sword attacks, but still trades far less range for this kind of speed than you'd usually expect, especially with the very solid combo potential it comes with, chaining into itself, dash attack, or even down smash, as well as having a chance to trip opponents. It's one of the safer down tilts on shield as well, and one of the safest among those with combo potential. A lot of these details, from the startup frame, to dash attack combos, to tripping, sound eerily reminiscent of Rob's fabled down tilt, and I think calling Meta Knight's a kind of budget version is a fairly reasonable comparison, considering that Rob's down tilt is one of the absolute best grounded attacks in the game, and Meta Knight's comes with the disjointed protection of having a sword. That's nothing to scoff at. And I like Ultimate's idea of trying to place a bit more emphasis back onto his swordsmanship, even if the reality of it arguably could use a bit more work. Speaking of strong tilt attacks, Lucas has one of the safest forward tilts in the game to throw at your opponent's shield, a pretty rare trait for this type of move, especially when you consider how big and quick it is, the combo potential of its inner sour spot, and the raw power of its outer tipper. While Lucas players generally opt for down smash for 2 frames, because why wouldn't you, that move is ridiculous, his angled forward tilt is great for this as well, and the move's sweet spot can be reliably comboed into thanks to its size and speed. There are safer grounded normals, there are bigger ones, stronger ones with more combo potential, but in terms of one move that does so much, it's hard to think of many in the same league as this unassuming looking hand wave. This is the second Smash entry in a row where I'm genuinely confused about why Lucas isn't a more popular competitive character. And while the reasons for this do vary between games, this time around, forward tilt is a good part of that. Alright, you know I had to slip my main in here somewhere. Silver Bow is underrated not only because the pits don't tend to see a lot of play, but also because people usually remember Pit's version of the move. It's hard to blame them for that. Pit got there first in Brawl, and then in Smash 4 his arrows were... okay, I mean, they were just better. In Ultimate though, while his Palutena's bow continues to be the bigger crowd pleaser, Dark Pit's Silver Bow takes on the role of an extremely solid, dependable tool both on and off stage. It shoots fast, it hits hard, and it launches at an excellent angle that can make recovering against it quite difficult, as opposed to Pit's better coverage at the cost of a gentler, upwards pop. If you followed this channel for long, you know I've got some major gripes with this character, but his Silver Bow is an excellent tool in his kit and dodges all of them. Well, okay, except that the upwards arrow doesn't always launch in the direction you're facing. I can't tell you how many clips I've lost from that. The only move on this list which is attached to a universally accepted top tier, Mario's Flood is one of those moves that you tend to gain more and more respect for as you improve at the game. It's true that Flood doesn't do any actual damage, but the positional advantage that comes from any individual hit is often far more important than the damage it causes, as it allows you to convert that advantage into much more damage. With this mindset, Flood can be thought of as causing damage over the course of a match, albeit indirectly, and as a damaging attack, that hitbox is nice. At full charge, this water stream is one of the biggest attacks in the game, with an almost unparalleled ability to control the stage, including gaining control of it back from positions you had no business doing this from. That's its most important characteristic, but we also can't forget about its more infamous use in edge guarding scenarios, especially against the handful of characters who severely struggle to deal with it. This tends to be the use case that casual players are more familiar with, but once you're aware of how much Flood can do for so little risk, you'll be charging it up every moment you possibly can. This cute little dog squeaky toy hammer is actually really scary. Early in Ultimate's life, it was kind of pathetic and seemed to be designed mostly as a joke, but at some point the balance team decided enough was enough and patched the hell out of it, giving it less knockback and far more hit stun. This turned the Frame 3 heavily disjointed hammer swing into an incredible combo tool that can link into a variety of Isabelle's kit, including itself, potentially many times if you're by the ledge using a technique that's been dubbed the wobble, which involves very slightly walking forward with good timing after every hit. Or it can combo into another combo starter, or her kill moves, or other people's kill moves if you've managed to pocket one. Kyle Lath made an excellent video on the fine details of how this works with different projectiles, but the gist of it is that the only thing your opponent can do after the jab is hold up their shield, which inevitably breaks. Gross. As weird as it feels to say, I think this former joke move is now a strong candidate for the single best jab in the game, which is just fantastic. And hey, speaking of which, if you thought this video was fantastic, please let me know. If this one is well received, I may consider doing a follow-up at some point, so if that's something you'd be into, consider making YouTube's algorithm happy with a like and comment, for example, which movie you'd like to see in a sequel. My second channel, MockRock Talk, is now live with more casual content, and if you'd like early videos, Discord access, content polls, and more, these are available through Patreon, YouTube membership, or Twitch subscription. Later, people! Zoners, the archetype centered around maintaining space between themselves and their opponent. Zoners create a tension-filled clash between conflicting priorities, an extension of combat to previous... Today's contender is arguably the most iconic attack in the history of Super Smash Bros., the Falcon Punch, a Smash original first seen in the debut Nintendo 64.